The Week 11 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by MyBookie. Guys, have you ever wanted to place a bet, but didn't because you were afraid to pick the wrong team? Well, this Thanksgiving, it's finally possible for you to get a 100% refund on your bet if you lose it. With the Turkey Day free play, you can bet the spread on either the Bears or the Lions. If it wins, you win. If it loses, MyBookie will give you your money back up to $250. You literally cannot lose. It's no risk, all gravy. MyBookie offers such a great product, and there has literally never been a better time to try them out. Unless your sport book is offering deals like this, I think you should make the switch. I've never heard of a sportsbook doing a freebie like this, and I doubt it'll ever happen again. These guys are trustworthy, fast, and helpful, so I know they're good for it. New to sports betting and have lots of questions? That's okay too, because MyBookie's patient customer service can walk you through any questions you have about how betting works. Sign up this week, and MyBookie will give you a 50% sign-up bonus to jumpstart your bankroll. It's a great way to bank even more money when you win. Log into MyBookie right now and use the promo code BEARS25 to get a 50% deposit bonus. That's promo code BEARS25. You don't need a promo code for your Turkey Day free play. If you lose, MyBookie will credit the money back into your account automatically. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today and don't miss out on the gravy train at MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground, with a talented and well-rested Vikings team visiting Soldier Field on Sunday night, our beloved had a lot to prove to their detractors and themselves if they wanted to be taken seriously as a contender in the NFC and not be left out of the discussion when it came to the Super Bowl. Did the Bears answer the call, and what was their response? All of this plus Bear Up and Bear Down on Part 2 of the Week 11 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground. You know, I could get used to these Victory Monday episodes. It's 4 in a row now, so a whole month of Victory episodes, and the hits will just keep on coming if our beloved keep playing the way that they played last night against the Minnesota Vikings. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back, Part 2 of the Week 11 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground, and, you guys should have listened to the all knee-jerk reaction portion, part 1 of the review episode last night. That was a lot of fun, actually. I hadn't watched the Bear game in a sports bar for quite some time, and I was sitting at the bar by myself, but there was a table behind me. It was about 5 people, and it was 4 dudes and 1 girl, and you can guess who the one Bear fan at the table was. You know, she was surrounded. I think they were college kids, and the guys, were all. They may have been football players. Look, athletes. Are pretty put together guys, and she was this little cutie wearing this cut off like sweatshirt with a Bear logo on the chest and everything. And of course, she was the loudest one at the table because, despite the 5-point margin at the end of the game, the Bears kicked the crap out of the Vikings throughout the entire football game. It was the Vikings defense that kept the point total low, last night. But and Fangio kind of getting soft there in the fourth quarter with the prevent and once again allowing the Vikings to make it look a lot closer than it was, because it was not a 5.1 score ball game that was played last night. The Bears dominated throughout. We had a 14-0 lead at halftime. Probably should have been larger than that, but nonetheless, we were well in control of the football game pretty much all the way through, and it was great to see the Bears. As you heard me say, a few times in those knee-jerk reactions, to see the Bears answer the call, to step up on the national stage. This is what the NFL wanted when they flexed the game to Sunday night. What was supposed to be a ho-hum, regional Sunday noon game, they wanted to push it to the to center stage, shine the spotlight on it, and the NFL got themselves a good football game. last night. And, from a team that was one game away from the Super Bowl last year against a team that's hoping to take its throne in the division and possibly do one game better this year, especially if we keep playing the way we played last night, man. That was a beautiful thing. So, but lots to talk about with last night's game. I looked like I had a crystal ball in my hands last week after the performance that Cody Parkey put together against the Lions. I came out pretty much immediately after the game, if not during the damn thing, saying that, number one, Cody Parkey was not going to get cut, and number two, he would be the reason that we beat Minnesota the following week. I was anticipating a close game, and sure enough, I don't know why we shied away from extra points last night. Both of our touchdowns, we went for 2 afterwards and got them, thankfully. But we didn't kick extra points last night, but Cody Parkey kicked 3 field goals, each one longer than the one before it. We started at 33, bumped up to 41, and then finished with 48, and that's the one that put the game away with about 3 minutes to go in the ball game. It gave the Bears a 25 to 12, 25 to 11, something like that. 25-16, that's what it was. Was it? 25-13. What the hell was the score before? It was 25 to 14. That's what it was. 25 to 14. 25 to 14 because they scored another touchdown, so 6 points. They went for 2 and they didn't get it. So that's where, so 25 to 14. So an 11.2 score game is what Cody Parkey gave us when he put that last one through at 48. I had to play with the math in my head. I couldn't figure it out. But there you go. So, I mean, he was a hero in the game, and he played a huge factor into the outcome in a positive way. He had his bad performance last week against the Lions. Thankfully for us, it did not affect the outcome of the game. The Bears would have just won by more points had Parkey been on target last week against Detroit. But, those were points that we wanted, but thankfully we didn't need them in order to win. This week we did need him. He did step up, and he got the job done. So kudos to Cody Parkey for responding. And, one thing that I was looking at this week, number one, from the beginning, all credit to Coach Nagy. From the beginning, from the Monday morning press conferences last week, or actually I think he even said it like last Sunday in the postgame press conferences. He's like, absolutely not. We're not bringing in we're not auditioning kickers. We're not thinking about switching. Basically Cody's my guy. We're going forward with him, so on and so forth. Not even bringing in guys off the street to try out or anything like that to give a different look or anything like that. He's like, nope, Cody's the guy. Never thought about it. He's going to be us. And, the trust and confidence that Nagy showed in Parkey, it goes a long way in sending a message to the rest of the team. It's like if I have a bad day, I know the coach has my back. Because look what he just did for Cody Parkey, and look how Cody stepped up and answered the bell when it came time. The one job that he has, he couldn't do it last week against the Lions, and this week it was colder outside. The ball gets harder and stuff like that. And it's the elements at Soldier Field. You're right on the lakefront. The wind and all that kind of stuff can be a factor pretty much any time of year, but especially when it starts to get cold out. And he was perfect right down the middle on all 3 of his kicks on Sunday. So he responded positively, as I believed he would when last week's game ended. I just had a feeling that it was definitely going to go down in a way where Cody Parkey would have to have a say in this game with Minnesota. And if I was wrong, then he'd be out of a job. I don't have any doubt about that. If he'd have choked the second time and end up costing us a game where we're not in second place, or we are in second place and we're 1-2 in the division, and it just would have been a big setback if he would have if we'd have cost us that game last night. But he didn't. He stepped up and he got the job done, man. It was real nice to see, and he made me look pretty damn smart last night. So yeah, definitely gets a pat on the back from your host. So it was it was really fun watching that game. For there to be for there to be high level football being played and for the Bears to be a part of it. You know, to know that and to know in your bones that what was happening was not a fluke. It's not a fluke. We've been doing this all year. You know, and it's wonderful to see, to know that your team is going to be in any game. This wasn't like back in 2009 when the Minnesota Vikings played the Bears on Monday Night Football. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. All they have to do is beat the lowly 6-8 Bears or whatever. 5-9 I think is what we actually were. And Brett Favre and the all-world Vikings come into town, and it's basically a foregone conclusion that they're going to kick the unholy hell out of the Bears and claim their first seed in the NFC. And just out of nowhere, we come in and we catch the Vikings with their pants down in the Devin Aromashadu game and beat the Vikings in overtime. Jay Cutler outduels Brett Favre on national TV unexpectedly. That was a fluke. What happened last night is what was supposed to happen. The Bears are the better team. They played like it for 60 minutes last night, and they walked away with the victory. They are head and shoulders above everyone else. A game and a half ahead of Minnesota, 2.5 ahead of Green Bay, and 3 full games ahead of the Lions with only 6 games left to play, guys. 7-3, our beloved sit atop the NFC North right now. And behind me right now on my TV is the matchup of the century between the Chiefs and the Rams. And last I checked, they were tied at halftime. And we're pulling for the Chiefs tonight. Why, you ask? Well, because if the Rams lose, they'll be 9-2. And if the Bears keep winning, the Bears will only be a game back when they play the Rams on Sunday Night Football in a few weeks. And if the Bears win that head-to-head against the Rams, then who has the inside track on a bye week and the number 2 seed in the NFC? We do. How about that? So we're Chiefs fans tonight, guys. Remember that when you're watching the game. So anyway, the way the game started out last night, it kind of got off to an interesting start. The Vikings start off with the football. We got them 3 and out. The first play, they go like 8 yards on first down. And then on 2 plays, they couldn't get the other 2 yards to get the first down. Stuffed by Akeem Hicks in the backfield on 3rd and inches. He just blows right past the offensive tackle and tackles, I think it was Cook that had the play and got stuffed. And the Vikings had to punt the football away to the Bears, who in true 2018 fashion moved the football right down the field, stalled out, but had to settle for a field goal. So right off the bat, Cody Parkey's got to prove whether or not kicking in Soldier Field under the lights with the helicopters from our news teams in Chicago watching, was all of that worth it? Did all that extra practice time and kicking in the elements, did that help? And sure enough, he nailed it. And just like that, once again, the Bears are the first on the board. We have the early lead, and much to my delight, the crowd got their marching orders from the general himself, Coach Nagy, and they were deafeningly loud last night. It was a fantastic atmosphere in Chicago for the Bears. Now, where things could have changed, and this is what made the difference in the game, and I think even though it happened early on, it was the turning point. The Vikings, when they got the ball back, they started driving the football down the field. They put some first downs together. They were getting some bogus calls in their favor, but nonetheless, they get down, and they're in field goal range. They should be able to walk away with at least 3 points on this drive, and Khalil Mack does what Khalil Mack does. And Dalvin Cook runs into a pile that is that Khalil Mack is standing in the middle of, and he strips and recovers a fumble from Dalvin Cook, killing that drive. And that happened twice to the Vikings last night. They both the 2 times last night they got within scoring range, should have at least walked away with a field goal, and they ended up turning the football over and giving it back to the Bears. So the defense erased any mistakes that they made in the first half against the Vikings. And those 6 points that they didn't walk away with, there's your difference in the game right there, folks. Those two, that at least 6 points they should have had on those two drives. The one that ended in a Dalvin Cook fumble, the other that ended in a Kirk Cousins interception where he was throwing into no one in particular and hit a wide open Adrian Amos in the center of the football field. If they walk away with those 6 points, that the Vikings possibly, if you just add those to what they had, the Vikings win last night. That's how crazy is that? Those 6 points were the difference in the game. So right there, the Bears shutting the Vikings down in the first half, killing both of their promising drives by taking the football back, ended up being the difference in the game. And Khalil Mack was Khalil Mack again. I mean, I was texting with a buddy of mine back and forth throughout the night, and, the better we play, the worse those draft picks for the Raiders get. But it's like every time you watch Khalil Mack do what he does, whether it's him causing a pressure that forces a bad throw that gets us. There was one drive he had like 2 or 3 plays in a row that he affected Kirk Cousins one way or another, whether it be he hit him as he was throwing or Cousins couldn't get it off, cleanly because he was trying to throw the football and avoid getting hit by Mack at the same time, and what have you. A lot of stuff that you can't really see on the stat sheet. Khalil Mack is just, he's outperforming the deal that we gave to get him. It's like 2 first-round picks and I think like a third rounder or something like that. Still doesn't seem like enough. It still feels like a steal because those picks that the Raiders got from the Bears, they're going to have to be perennial all-pros their entire career for this to even look like it was remotely in Oakland's favor. Even remotely, those players are going to have to become Khalil Mack on their own, each one of them. And that's probably not going to happen. And I'm just sitting there and we're talking back and forth. And I'm like, honestly, bro, we're 11 weeks into the season and I still can't wrap my head around what the hell John Gruden was thinking when he pulled the trigger on the trade or gave Reggie McKenzie the okay to make the trade. With the Bears. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I understand you're the head coach. You're trying to plant your own flag. You want the team to be filled with your guys. But, dude, you don't give away a generational, like, once-in-a-lifetime player just so you can be the guy, just so you can be the cock of the walk in your own locker room. It doesn't make sense, and the Raiders are paying for it. Now, they finally got their second victory of the season over the Cardinals yesterday, and we just got our 7th. So I definitely think the immediate returns and long term, we're going to come out way ahead on this trade. Two first round picks and a third rounder in 2020 or whatever the hell it was. It's a bargain compared to what we got in return. We got a Hall of Famer in return. He's been lights out, and then Akeem Hicks, who was a beast last night as well on the defensive side. What can you say about these guys? I mean, Akeem Hicks is criminally underrated. I mean, there isn't a Bear fan alive who doesn't, worship the ground that Akeem Hicks walks on because he was doing that before Khalil Mack came to town. Now he's just doing it better, which was hard to imagine, but he's doing it. And performances like the one he had last night are indicative of what he can do. With the right amount of help. I mean, it was an awesome thing to watch that Bears defense work last night. On the offensive side, it was a bit more uneven than the solid performance we pretty much got throughout from the defense last night. But, we had our rocky moments. Mitch threw a couple of interceptions last night. Neither one of them were good decisions in hindsight. All the credit in the world to Mitch. I was listening to some of his press conference after the game on Sunday. My man is sticking by those decisions. He's saying that the first one was, I think he said that he looked off one safety and thought he had made enough of a good throw to beat the other one, and the defender just made a great play. And it's true. He did. He jumped over Taylor Gabriel to come down with the football. So it was a good defensive play but he did throw it into triple coverage, so it doesn't look like it was the best decision yesterday. And you heard me say it on the knee-jerk reactions last night. I think it was a touch of overconfidence that caused him to make that throw. But good for him to stick by it. He's like, yeah, if I had a chance, I'd have just made a better throw, which would have been hard to do. But maybe he released it a little bit sooner and beats the safety to the point. Maybe that's what he does if he could do it again. But he says that he thought he made the right decision. The one with the second one, which actually looked worse than the first one, because you weren't really clear as to who he was trying to throw it to. There were two receivers in the area, none of which was open. And I think he was expecting Allen Robinson to do something else, or he said Allen Robinson got caught up as he was letting the football go. So where he thought Robinson was going to be, he wasn't. He got slowed down and ended up being the interception. So again, standing by his decision, like I went to the right place with the ball. It just didn't work out, kind of thing is what he's saying. I think that's admirable of him to stick by it, and as opposed to try to backpedal his way out of it and what have you. He's sticking by his decisions and thinking that he made the right one, despite how it may have looked to the layman like you and me. But it is what it is. Fortunately, neither of the two turnovers really ended up hurting all that much, and that was something that was also very encouraging. You heard me talk about it in the on the drive home last night, was that I feel like we are a far more resilient team than we really have been, especially in recent past. Turnovers in the past would have been morale killers, because anytime that we got something going on offense last year, the year before, and so on, if we were to throw an interception or fumble the football or turn it over, something would just happen to the team. It would be such a shock to morale, or such a shot to the morale, that it would take us a while to recover. We didn't have amnesia the way that NFL players need to have in order to be able to continue to do their job. And last night, the defense nearly erased the mistakes, and the offense did a fantastic job of brushing them off. And I think you got to credit Nagy and the coaching staff with putting the team in the right perspective to do that. And also because we've been playing so well, we know that that's not the only chance we're going to have to score or to get into field goal range or what have you. It's like, oh, well, that didn't go well. We'll just come back and get them on the next one, and to know that you'll be able to get back to that point and go further on the next one. I just feel like it was a mental game more than anything when we would turn over the football last year. And number one, we had so little success moving the ball last year that's why all those turnovers did absolutely hurt as much as they did when they occurred, because you didn't know when or how we'd be able to get back there again, because it was so rare. So I feel like the Bears are a much more resilient team this year than they have been in the past, and that is a credit to Nagy and the coaching staff for getting us there. One thing that I was not a fan of last night, I mean, it's like I was a fan of it and I hated it at the same time, was Nagy tried, realizing that the Vikings are strong in the secondary. They've got some of the best corners in the league. They're deep. They've spent, I think 3 first-round picks in the last 4 years or so on corners. They're deep at the cornerback. Trey Waynes. They drafted Mike Hughes in the first round this time. Xavier Rhodes is one of the best corners in football. So that's 3 first-round picks right there just in the last 3 to 5 years or so that are, that we've been trying to throw the football against last night. And it's no big surprise that Allen Robinson didn't have a great performance last night, because he had to go up against Xavier Rhodes all night long. And Taylor Gabriel and Anthony Miller had to pick their spots to be able to make plays last night. So the passing game was going to be tough. So we started running the football a little bit more. What I didn't like about it was that instead of just making it the Jordan Howard show, which was working, especially in the first half, he got the whole downhill running thing going. I mean, even when Jordan Howard was being met at the line of scrimmage, he was still getting positive yardage. He was turning nothing into 2 or 3 yards. he only had a long of 8, but it's not like he had a long of 8, wrapped around 20 runs of a yard or more. You heard me saying the knee-jerk reaction. He doesn't have 11 carries for 13 yards like he's had in the past, or the other day when we played the Lions. He only had 1.9 yards per carry, 11 carries for 21 yards or whatever the hell it was. He didn't even average 2 yards a carry against the Lions last Sunday. He ended up with 63 yards on 18 carries, good enough for 3.5 yards carry, and I think those numbers were better in the first half. He was getting chunks. So on 1st and 10, we run the football, we're getting 4. So it's 2nd and 6 is a hell of a lot better to deal with than 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10 if you got stuffed at the line of scrimmage. But we started mixing in these jet sweeps where we're handing it off to Taylor Gabriel, handing it off to Tariq Cohen or Anthony Miller, trying to get them around the edge. Well, the unfortunate thing is that we've been doing this quite a bit so far this year, so the teams are crashing heavy to the outside. And these receivers and Tariq Cohen, Cohen's much better at cutting back, and he had a big run last night because he did a decent cutback, but more times than not, he's trying to find an open spot. He's trying to find that 18 inches of daylight to turn the football upfield, and is either running out of bounds to lose yardage, or he's just doing his best to get back to the line of scrimmage. Stop trying to be so damn fancy, man. Just give the football to Howard and let him do his thing. Let him do his thing. You're wasting Jordan Howard back there running the football. So I would have much rather, instead of seeing Taylor Gabriel and Taquan Mazzell try to take it around the edge on the outside, just give it to Howard up front, because the offensive line was dominating the front last night. I did not expect to see that in the running game last night, but we were dominating up front because Jordan Howard was getting at least 2 yards before first contact last night against the Vikings. It was really nice to see. So I wish that we would have stuck with the straightforward running game instead of trying to get so fancy. And, I get it. Nagy's trying to make something big happen. And if you get a guy like Cohen or Gabriel out into the open field after they turn the corner, that's going to be big. That's going to be big trouble for the Vikings. And in a game like that with the number 4 and number 5 scoring defenses in the NFL, which means they don't allow many points, the more, obviously every point is of a premium in a game like that. So he's trying to make big plays happen to get as many points as he can as quickly as he can. I get that. But we ran that play about half a dozen times, and aside from it working pretty decently the first time with Gabriel, it didn't work much after that. So he just kept going back to it. It was kind of annoying, and I wouldn't wish that he would have just stuck with Howard and let him do his thing last night. But in the first half, it was it did look like we got a lot more out of Jordan Howard in the first half than we did in the second. And he finished with a decent number, 63 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, which is almost double what he did last week against the Lions. So there was progress there. But it was a good first half, 14-0. We were up ahead. We got the 2 Cody Parkey field goals. We had the Anthony Miller touchdown and everything, and the defense was playing lights out. Now in the second half is when the Vikings got another break. They got another interception out of Trubisky. It was a 14-3 third lead going into the fourth quarter for the Bears, and that's where things got exciting. We were able to the offense. Let me go back to the running thing. I mean, this is why it was important, because I knew that, with Trubisky still being his elusive self, he got sacked once in the first half, but for the most part was able to move around in the pocket to get away from the pressure and scrambled a bit and got some yardage last night. You knew that with the success that Trubisky was having with that in the first half, that Zimmer was going to do something to tighten that up in the second half, and he did. So if we wanted to get yardage running the football, it would have to be on the back of Jordan Howard. We just didn't do that enough last night. So that was frustrating to see, and because of it, the offense didn't really produce much. It produced nothing in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, we didn't score a touchdown, and we only had the 3 points at the end of the game with 3 minutes to go. That Cody Parkey field goal, those were all the offensive points we scored last night, because the touchdown that we scored in the fourth quarter, which pretty much was the first nail in the coffin for the Vikings, was the Eddie Jackson pick six. Kirk Cousins hung one up there. Eddie Jackson came down with it. Only 27 yards to pay dirt, and next thing you know, we got a big lead. We're up 22-11 or whatever the hell the score was at the time. It was it was good to it was like that's where I breathed a sigh of relief at that moment, was that I think it's out of reach now. I think we did put this thing away. There was still a lot of time left, but the way the defense was playing, it seemed like a pretty insurmountable lead for the most part. And what I loved about the Eddie Jackson touchdown was the celebration, and not so much the celebration itself, but the quotes and comments that came from the players afterwards. Khalil Mack didn't know what was going on. He said actually a lot of players didn't know what Eddie was doing. What Eddie was doing was leading a symphony. And at first, with everybody gathered, Khalil Mack thought it was a choir. He thought he was supposed to be singing. And then he said, and I quote, "Then Akeem started playing the trumpet and I had to switch it up." I laughed out loud when I read that. He's like, I thought I was going to be singing "Oh Happy Day." Then Akeem started playing the trumpet, so I had to switch it up. And Akeem Hicks said, I was actually playing the flute. So he was pretending to play the flute. And he said, please don't go back and watch it. I know it's not a good replay, but he was doing something, so we all went with it, and we were having fun. So, and that's all you want to see is, the guys are having fun out there, and it's producing the results that you want to see as well. So it was, it was a team victory. The thing that was lacking in the Miami game, where the defense wasn't playing well, the offense was non-existent in the first half, and obviously, Cody Parkey missing those kicks or missing that kick in the in overtime that would have won us the game. Last night, we got it from everyone. Last night, the offense did its job to hang on to the football, even if we wouldn't putting points on the board. The time of possession battle was heavily one-sided for the Bears. I think when it was all said and done, it was 34 to 25, 34-29. So 34 and a half to 25 and a half. So a 9-minute time of possession advantage for the Bears last night. And it was that's what when the offense wasn't producing at points, they were at least hanging on to the football, draining the clock, keeping it out of Minnesota's hands, because they got playmakers that could have struck big and fast last night. But the defense and just the football team in general, that's the other thing that I noticed, was that for years we've been watching teams like, occasionally the Vikings when they've had a good year. Obviously Green Bay's been the class of the division for the last several years. Anytime you watch the Bears play the Packers, that was the most frustrating part about watching the game, was not so much losing, but feeling like we weren't up to their caliber, because they always seem to have this gear that the Bears didn't quite have, that little extra oomph, if you will, where they would fight just that little bit harder to get that extra yard, or, wiggle just a little bit more so they could break free and extend the football to get the first down. Things like that, somebody coming up to make a block that normally wouldn't get made. I feel like the Bears have found that gear. I have enviously watched other teams play with it over the years, and I feel like I'm watching the Bears finally play with that gear now, and it's awesome. It is awesome to be able to see my team find that gear. We're the ones like Khalil Mack with his endless motor, constantly flailing his arms trying to get at the quarterback and strip sack, and him getting in there last night on Dalvin Cook, and he was at the bottom of a pile, still managed to recover the fumble. He had half a football team on his back and still had the presence of mind to reach for the football and scoop it in for the Bears. And it's things like that. Akeem Hicks on a screenplay last night. Kirk Cousins throws it right over his head, and it was Akeem Hicks who made the tackle from behind, tackled Dalvin Cook, who maybe got a yard, if that, on that play. It looked like he was setting up for maybe something big to happen, and here comes big old Akeem, just comes in and squashes Dalvin Cook to the ground. Nothing, because the Bears have found that extra gear. Whatever it is, we have it now, and that's what's so awesome to see. And that's why, it feels like, we were 6-3. People didn't really believe in the Bears. We weren't, quote unquote, buying the Bears, that whole buy or sell thing. Nobody was buying the Bears. They were still believing Minnesota's the class of the division, or if, God forbid, if the Packers get themselves on a streak, they liked anybody but the Bears, in the North or in the NFC in general. I think we changed some opinions last night. And if they didn't, then they're lying to themselves about how good a football team we have in Chicago now. So, it was wonderful to watch last night. A lot of fun, and made me feel good about watching it. And, the important thing, which kind of got a bittersweet tang to it a couple of hours ago, but we walked out of that game relatively healthy. Now, obviously, the number one objective for last night was a victory, but 1A was getting out healthy because of that small window between now and Thursday at 11:30 in the morning to play the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. Last night, Aaron Lynch left the game early with a concussion, did not come back. Adam Shaheen apparently knocked himself silly, catching the 2-point conversion towards the end of the game last night. He also left with a concussion, and we were thinking that that's all that happened. Adam Shaheen, we probably wouldn't have missed that much, A, because we played without the guy all season up to this point and played well, and B, he didn't really even play that much last night. So I don't think that's a very big loss for us at this point. Anyway, Aaron Lynch, that might be a problem against Detroit and, trying to get after Aaron Rodgers against Matt Stafford, because I don't know that you can clear concussion protocol in 72 hours. I don't know if anyone's ever done that before. So if I had to choose on which one of those guys I wanted back on the field by Thursday, obviously Aaron Lynch would be my selection. I think we'd be okay without him for a game if we had to. The one that kind of was slapping everybody's face today was hearing that if the Bears had practiced today on Monday, Mitch Trubisky would have been on the injury list for the first time in his very short career with a injury to his throwing shoulder. Turns out that the hit that Harrison Smith put on him last night when he was sliding, Harrison was flagged for it. Apparently that was the hit that ended up hurting Mitch. Now, we don't know what the severity was or anything like that. Maybe Mitch wouldn't have practiced anyway because it's Monday and we're playing again in 72 hours or less than 72 hours. So who knows? Maybe it's just soreness. Maybe it's a stinger. Maybe it's, something not serious. But I was just texting with my dad before I started doing the show here. He heard about Trubisky and the shoulder. And I was like, well, that's why we paid Chase Daniel $7 million to come play for the Bears this year, was if something like this were to happen, if Trubisky can't go in the short week, I feel okay with Chase Daniel at the helm. He played very well in the preseason. He obviously knows Nagy's system, so there wouldn't be a steep drop-off or anything like that. I doubt very much that Chase Daniel is the runner that Trubisky is, so maybe we lose that aspect of the offense, but you saw him perform. We know that he knows Nagy's system. That's why he's here. I think we'd be okay for a game with Chase Daniel. And, of course, Jason La Canfora of CBS Sports, he would absolutely love it because, according to him, even now, Chase Daniel is still the best quarterback on the Chicago Bears roster. So he'd probably be fondling himself over the prospect of Chase Daniel playing on national TV on Thanksgiving to prove him right that the wrong guy's been playing under center for the Bears all along. So despite their 7-3 record and Trubisky's progression and growth so far this year, it should have been Chase Daniel all along. So I'm sure that La Canfora would just love it if that were to happen. So if it becomes a thing and Trubisky doesn't play on Thursday and that's it, he still has 10 days to get ready for the Giants on would it be December 2nd or whatever? Something like, December 2nd. I think it would be the next game after that. It's 10 whole days to get ready, and hopefully that will be enough. If it becomes more of a thing and we have to go 2-3 games or whatever without Chase Daniels, then, in my opinion, it becomes a little bit more of a concern. But for a one-game Band-Aid stopgap, I'll take Chase Daniel, and that's why we went out and paid him the extra money, paid him more than most backup quarterbacks get, was to fill in a spot like this. So if that's what has to happen, obviously I'd rather see Trubisky out there, but I feel good about what Chase Daniel can do for us. And I believe he can play well enough for us to get a win on Sunday, or excuse me, Thursday against the Lions. So yeah, was not happy to hear about, because it just literally came out of nowhere. No one mentioned anything about it last night, so maybe it was just something that the adrenaline or whatever, he thought he was fine, and then he woke up this morning and it was like, oh, something's not right, and came in and got it looked at and what have you. And the Bears put him on the injury report for this week's for this game. Like if the Bears would have practiced today, Trubisky would have been held out with a shoulder injury under the DNP, did not practice designation today. So I don't know. I hope we're all crapping our pants prematurely and everything is going to be fine and he's just a little sore and whatnot. But like I said, push comes to shove. We've got Chase Daniel, and I definitely believe that he's good enough to get us a win over the Lions. And I even if we have to wait a week and he plays against the Giants, I think he's good enough to get us a win there as well. So I think we'll be okay. If we go much further than that, if we have to play the Rams with Chase Daniel, then things might get interesting for us. But I think we're going to be okay. So as much as I don't want to see that happen, if it does, it's not the end of the world. So anyway, last couple of things I want to mention before we get to our bear ups and our updated bear up and bear down list. I gave you a preemptive one last night. Number one, Club Dub, as Coach Nagy calls it, was live and in full effect last night. It's an idea that Nagy borrowed/stole from Joe Madden and the Cubs. The Cubs spent a fortune turning the dilapidated old locker room clubhouse of Wrigley Field into this state-of-the-art facility underneath the stadium for the Cubs, and it turns into like a mini nightclub for the Cubs anytime they win a game. Nagy, I think I read that he got permission from Joe Madden to use the idea for the Bears. Whenever they win, the locker room becomes Club Dub, basically a disco for a few minutes after the game. The players dance around and celebrate and hoot and holler and what have you. And Club Dub is in full effect for the fourth week in a row yesterday, after the victory over Minnesota. And you got to check out some of those videos on Twitter or ChicagoBears.com. They're a lot of fun to see, the players dancing around and being silly, celebrating the win. And, just the euphoria of another victory is, always fun to see the work that those guys put in and for it to pay off the way that it has for the Bears the last 4 weeks especially. The Club Dub has been fun to watch the last few weeks. And then finally, one of our followers on the Chicago Bears, Bears Talk Underground. Ooh, almost let that slip out, didn't I? Bears Talk Underground Facebook page. Craig Taylor from the UK was in attendance at the game last night. I don't know what the later kickoff did. I hope it didn't interfere with your travel plans or anything, getting back to the UK, or if you're sticking around, or what your plans are. But Craig turned out to be a good luck charm, unlike our other old friend, one of my OGs, Malcolm Fell, who seemed to be in attendance for a whole lot of losses when he would make the trip across the pond, come over here to the States and show up at games, and the Bears would lose whenever Malcolm was there. But Craig comes over, and, he said it was worth every penny he spent on flights and hotels and tickets and whatnot, and even had to sit through the bitter cold that is November in Chicago on the lakefront. And the Bears got a win on national TV on Sunday Night Football over a division rival. So Craig Taylor is the official good luck charm of all UK fans from now on, until he goes to a game where they lose Craig Taylor is the good luck charm. So bear up, Craig Taylor, for showing up and giving us the advantage, having one of our UK fans in the house. And thanks for sharing the pictures on the Bears Talk Underground Facebook page. Go ahead and check him out. He had a cool one. It's in the comments of one of the posts last night. He and his lady, I assume his wife, it's the two of them, and then just off to the right is a picture of the video board that says Bears win. Great picture. So congratulations, and Malcolm, quit going to Bear games. We lose when you show up, bro. So keep listening to the show, but stop going to the games, man. You're bad luck. So anyway, that is going to do it for the review of Week 11 with the Bears getting the victory, moving to 7-3. A full game and a half ahead of the 5-4-1 Vikings, 2.5 games ahead of the 4-5-1 Packers, and 3 full games ahead of the 4-6 Detroit Lions, who thankfully they won yesterday against the Carolina Panthers. And I say thankfully because that means the Bears that they don't have a winning streak. They don't have a losing streak to snap against the Bears on Thanksgiving Day. They're actually winners now. They're on a winning streak instead of a losing streak now. So that's actually a good thing for us that they snapped the streak. Therefore, they're not looking for blood on national team. I mean, they're looking for it anyway. They're looking for revenge. They were embarrassed the first game, and the game wasn't as close as the 12-point deficit at the end of the game or anything like that. But yeah, they won yesterday, so they're not looking to snap a 4-game losing streak. They're looking to extend a winning streak that they started against Carolina, and I believe that they're going to come up short against our beloved on Thursday. So anyway, that is going to do it for the review, and we'll get over to our favorite segment and close this bad boy out with Bear Up and Bear Down. Here we are with our updated Bear Up and Bear Down list. And remember, guys, that Turkey Day free play thing is the real deal. I don't know how MyBookie is doing it, but Bears25 is the promo code if you want to get your 50% sign-up bonus. They'll match up to 50% of your deposit. And the Turkey Day free play does not require a promo code, and you bet up to $250, or you can keep as much as $250. If you bet more than that, you'll get at least $250 back if you lose. So if you bet the spread and the Bears cover, you win. And if the Bears don't cover the spread, or God forbid if they lose, you get your money back. So it's like, what was it say? It was all no risk, all gravy, So go ahead and give it a try with MyBookie. Bears25, the promo code for the 50% sign-up bonus and the Turkey Day free play this week. I think, and maybe I'll even get in on that as well. So anyway, Bear Ups and Bear Downs for this Week 11 review. Going to start off with Cody Parkey, because why not? I mean, he was on the Bear Down list last week, and he earned it, that's for sure. But 3 for 3 on Sunday, 33, 41, and 48. That was the big one at the end there that helped us win the football game. The points that he provided ended up being the difference in the game. And bear up to Cody for it was the theme of what I was saying the whole time on the way home in the car when I was recording that final segment. The Bears answered the call. We stepped up on the national stage, and Cody Parkey was a big part of that last night. Bear up to Akeem Hicks. 5 tackles for loss, the first time that's been done by a Bear since Alex Brown did it in 2004. Bear up to Jordan Howard. When they were giving him the ball, they were running it properly downhill. He ran the football a lot better last night. That's more of what I want to see from the Bears offense in the run game and from Jordan Howard going forward, man. I mean, that was reminiscent of what we were getting in 2016, 2017 when Jordan Howard was all the offense that we had. Bear up to Khalil Mack. Add another sack last night, a fumble, strip, and another fumble recovery, and various other plays throughout the football game. You heard me mention it earlier. I still feel like we owe the Raiders a couple more picks for what we're getting in return on this trade, though. Thankfully, there's no conditional picks that the Bears have to give the Raiders. But yeah, it's whatever the price is. It's we haven't paid the Raiders enough for what we're getting back right now. Bear up to Adrian Amos, who didn't make the original cut last night when I was on the road. Got that interception in the first half, has otherwise been pretty damn good so far this year, along with his safety compadre, Eddie Jackson, with another pick six. This guy just seems to be wherever the ball's going to be, that's where you'll find Eddie Jackson. They very timely interception last night when the offense was kind of sputtering in the second half, or at least struggling to produce points in the football game. They were certainly cranking out the first downs and moving the chains, hanging on the time of possession. I mean, we had 24 first downs. We were 6 of 12 on third down, which against the Vikings defense is pretty much unheard of the last couple of seasons. And, but we just weren't able to make it count on the scoreboard. So Eddie Jackson went out there, and the defense took it upon themselves to put some points on the board to help drive the nail home against the Vikings, and Eddie Jackson was the man that made that happen. He also happened to lead a pretty awesome touchdown celebration where half the guys were in a choir, the other half were in a symphony of sorts, but they were just kind of following along with what Eddie was doing. So it was a lot of fun to watch that as well. Bear up Anthony Miller, great touchdown grab last night. Also had a huge catch on third down last night that helped move the chains and keep things going for the Bear offense in the fourth quarter. And finally, bear up to the offensive line. Only one sack on Trubisky last night, kept him clean for the most part throughout the entire football game. And, in the running game, when we were running downhill between tackles for Jordan Howard, the lanes were there for Howard to get a few yards as opposed to nothing, which is what he's had trouble doing over the last several weeks. On the Bear downside, two names that I one especially that I didn't expect to put here, but there it was. One being Mitch Trubisky, and I only put him there because of how those interceptions looked. Overall, he did not have a very bad night. Number one, he was playing against the Vikings defense, which was the fourth best scoring defense in football. So another 34, 48-point explosion from this football team that wasn't going to happen last night. Not with a lot of luck anyway. But he was 20 of 31, 165 yards in the touchdown to Anthony Miller. He was only sacked once. He rushed for 43 yards last night on 10 carries. So otherwise a pretty decent game, but it's those interceptions, both of which he stands by the decisions, but as a layman sitting here looking at it, they looked like bad decisions that could have hurt a lot more than they did if we didn't have the defense that we have. So those are things that we need to shore up and going forward. I'm sure those are things that we won't see from Mitch as he progresses. The kid is growing. He is growing. He's improving week to week, and I'm pretty sure that somewhere down the line we'll be able to avoid mistakes like this, or he'll make better throws, or he'll make the throw a split second quicker that would have been able to beat that safety down the middle and get the ball to Taylor Gabriel. Not there yet, but we're getting there. But for now, those two interceptions were bad throws, bad decisions. Got to put you on the list. And then the one that hurt, bear down Tariq Cohen. Hate to do it, man. Fumbled the ball last night. Thankfully, it was something that the Bears were able to bounce back from. It was no big deal in the end. But, it was kind of like that dry spell that he went on throughout the year last year. We'd have these really explosive games where he'd, have all kinds of, yardage from catching the ball, running the ball, and special teams and so on and so forth. He'd have all these impact plays, and then the week after, he wouldn't be part of the game plan for some reason, and he's not doing anything. Well, unfortunately, he is a part of the game plan. He's just hasn't been doing much. And then he fumbled the ball last night. And it was late, too, in the fourth quarter. It was not a good time for that to happen. But, nonetheless, you hate to do it. Maybe this will be motivation for him to bounce back and have a performance of the day against the Lions on Thursday. So, unfortunately, we got to give a bear down to Tariq Cohen. But I'm certain that he will bounce back as well because he's awesome. So Anyway, that is going to do it for Bear Up and Bear Down for week number 11. That is going to close the book on week number 11. And but don't go too far, because the book on week 12 opens tomorrow night. Because we have this short turnaround, and because Jeremy wasn't available on Wednesday, so we could just kind of do it all at once, we're going to do another two-parter. We're going to do part 1 of the week 12 preview tomorrow night, myself and Jeremy Reisman. And I did test my internet connection. It wasn't the internet connection. It was actually my computer. I went through it, and I had defragged. I cleaned it up. I did a 25-minute test call on Skype with my dad yesterday. It went fine. And I even recorded it. I even had my PlayStation Vue streaming in the background at the same time. So, it was streaming high-definition television, and recording a Skype call all at the same time. Not once did that low quality or low network window come up at all. So knock on wood, I have exorcised the demon that was plaguing my computer the last few weeks, and Jeremy and I won't have any issues tomorrow. And we'll be able to get that interview cranked out tomorrow night. And then Wednesday, we'll come back with the full preview, if you will, the final injury reports before the Thursday game, any news and notes that I have, plus what I think the Bears need to do in order to walk away with the victory. So the next 2 nights are going to be important, because we'll also be updating the status of Trubisky and whether he's going to be under center on Thursday or if it will be Chase Daniel. So I don't know how vague Nagy's going to be this week in the vein of competitiveness and keeping Detroit on their toes, and they maybe have to prepare for Chase Daniel instead of Trubisky or what have you. We'll see how it all goes, but we'll get through it together. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, come on back, because we'll be having parts 1 and 2 of the preview for the Bears and the Lions on Thanksgiving, starting with Jeremy Reisman and our conversation tomorrow night. So until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been Bears Talk Underground.